7 to 9 minutes. Reuben Schuff, remember, Reuben Schuff.
Soviet forces closed in from the east, while American and British forces moved from the west. April 4th, 1945. Ohrdruf, a satellite of the Buchenwald concentration camp, was the first camp that American forces liberated. 11,000 prisoners were liberated on their way to the gas chambers and crematoriums. Their names not to be added to the 6 million Jews and 12 million total who perished in the genocide we call the Holocaust. When General Dwight D. Eisenhower, Supreme Commander of Allied forces, heard about the devastation uncovered at the camp, he arranged to meet his top generals, George Patton and Omar Bradley, at the camp to personally inspect. 8 days later, April 12th, the generals arrived. A day earlier, Buchenwald itself had been liberated. General Eisenhower cabled General George C. Marshall, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in Washington, D.C., to report on his trip. Eisenhower writes, "The things I saw begar description. The visual and verbal testimony, starvation, cruelty, bestiality, so overpowering as to leave me a bit sick. In one room, 20 or 30 naked men were piled up, killed by starvation. George Patton refused to even enter the room, saying he would become sick if he did so." Eisenhower continues to write, "I made the visit deliberately so that I would be in a position personally to give evidence, if ever in the future, these allegations were attributed merely as propaganda." Eisenhower ordered all civilian and military media to tour the camp and to record their observations in print, in film, and in picture. So it has been documented, has been recorded in the voice and in the eyes of the first person, of those who liberated and of those who survived. Those who liberated Leon Bass. I enlisted in the United States Army at 18, and I learned in my great country at that time I was set apart as something different because I happened to be black. Therefore, I was assigned to what we called then a segregated unit. And I was told to deliver. I was told to go out and do battle, make the world a better place for all of us to live. So I and my comrades went forth. One day we found ourselves at the Battle of the Bulge, moving up under great stress, pushing the Germans back into Europe, until one day we arrived at a place called Weimar. It was then that I began to take off the blinders. It was then that I had to stop having tunnel vision about human suffering. No one had told me about the death camps. I had been to many orientations, but no one had shared what had been going on in Europe so many years. On this day in April, I walked through the gates of a place called Buchenwald. The liberators and the survivors. Dr. Hassana Rosenstock. On November 23rd, 1944, I arrived in Bergen-Belsen from Auschwitz. There were no concentration camps in Bergen-Belsen. The doctors did not perform terminal medical experiments on human beings as they did in other camps. Rather, Bergen-Belsen was where thousands of inmates were sent at the end of 1944-45 as Germans were forced to retreat. Conditions at the camp were at their worst 3 weeks before liberation. Typhus, tuberculosis, other epidemics were rampant. 1,000 people perished each day. Only a small group of us who had already had the diseases in Auschwitz were immune and able to resist. The small crematorium could not cope with all the corpses, even though it burned day and night. And then came April 15th, 1945. I will never forget that day. It was Sunday. It was hot. It was quiet. The camp seemed to have been deserted like a cemetery. And we heard the earth shaking, the rolling tanks. We thought the Germans were coming to blow up the camp. Then we heard a loud voice say in German, "Hello! Hello! You are free! We are British soldiers. We have come to liberate you." For the greatest part of the Jews in Bergen-Belsen, there was no joy, no ecstasy at liberation. We had lost our families, we had lost our homes, we had no place to go, nobody to hug, no one waiting for us anywhere. We had been freed from death and the fear of death, but not from the fear of life. Philosopher and author George Santayana writes, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." The Life of Reason, 1905. Madam Toastmaster.